A happy day. I am here today in front of you to talk on the concept of consumer buying decision making process. I am Dr. Vasudha, Assistant Professor, MBA Department, M.O.P. Vaishnav College for Women. So let's go ahead and have a look at what this concept is all about. You can all guess that consumer buying decision making process is a very important concept in marketing management. This was made very famous by a very renowned author of marketing, Philip Kotler. So what is this process all about? Here we are trying to understand what exactly goes in the minds of the consumer when they are trying to buy a product. And as a marketer, why we need to know this is, we can offer better solution to the consumers. We can understand the consumer psychology and accordingly offer a very good solution to them. So what exactly happens here? The entire mental process that goes on in the consumer's mind, that is what this entire process is all about, and it's very critical in the marketing management area. So let's move on and look at the 5 stages that are defined by Philip Kotler regarding the consumer buying decision making process. So the stage 1 is need recognition, stage 2 is information search, stage 3 is evaluation of alternatives, stage 4 is purchase decision, and stage 5 is post purchase behavior. All these 5 stages are very critical in understanding a consumer. Let us look at each of the stages with very simple examples to understand the workings. This is stage 1, the need recognition. This is where the spark happens. Every person, there is a trigger. When they want to buy a product, there is usually a trigger. So this phase is about understanding what causes that trigger. We technically call it need recognition stage. So this need can be triggered by 2 kinds of stimuli. One is internal stimuli and the other one is external stimuli. So internal stimuli is something that happens within the mind of the consumer. For example, you can think like you would want to get fitter, physically fitter and mentally strong, and in order to do that you can go ahead and enroll yourself in gym. So that is an example of internal stimuli. There is also external stimuli. When we travel by car, we look at big hoardings in the roads, or sometimes we come across a very attractive ad on the smartphone when we are browsing on social media. So these kinds of stimuli are happening in the external environment, and that may trigger us to go ahead and buy a product, and that is called the external stimuli. As a marketer, why you need to understand this is, you have to present your product in such a manner that a consumer, they are able to identify their need and they are able to think of a product. So that is where the marketer comes in. The next stage you can see is information search. Once a consumer recognizes the need, they are very clear, what they do is they get into extensive research. We all know that, right? When you are trying to buy a smartphone or a refrigerator or a washing machine at home, you would like to research as far as possible. What are the normal things that we will do when we are planning to buy a particular brand? We will immediately ask our friend or we will ask our neighbor. In some cases, we can even go to the company's website, like Samsung's website for example, or when you want to buy an Apple iPhone, you might go to the company's website and check out the specifications. You may also resort to public sources. In fact, today we are extensively making a lot of search on social media. We go to many consumer forums where our fellow consumers leave a lot of reviews about the products, and also experiential sources. This is nothing but stepping into a showroom and checking out the different models and products that are out there. Especially if we take Indian consumers, we are very particular about the touch and feel experience before we take a decision. So, all of these things are what we refer to as the information source. A very good example is, like I said, when you set out to buy a mobile phone or a smartphone, you will see that you go through all these extensive information search. There is one important thing, actually in many ways, apart from gathering data, a consumer also becomes very satisfied with the process of being informed before taking a decision. The next step is the evaluation of alternatives. We can think of it from our perspective itself. Whenever you are setting out to buy a product, you would want to weigh the options, right? If you want to buy a smartphone or if you just want to buy a cup of coffee, you will consider so many brands and weigh them on the basis of lot of features. It can be the product features, it can be specifications, it can be the quality of the product, it can be the price deals that you get, right? So, these are all the different criterias a consumer will be weighing before they choose on a particular brand. So, this stage is actually very important for a marketer to know. That is why when you go to companies' websites, when you look at sales personals, when you look at marketers, why they are talking about all these things? Whenever you step into a showroom, they will welcome you and tell you everything about the product's feature, they will tell you what offers they have, right? All of this is to help the consumer to get through the stage and move on to the next stage. So, we have a very good example here. Like I said, it can be as simple as a decision of deciding upon a coffee brand. You can see here, the criteria that a consumer can have can be the taste, the aroma, the origin, whether it is organic, whether it is pricey, whether it is of good quality, right. So, these are the things to consider in the evaluation of the alternative stage. The next stage is the ultimate stage, we call it the purchase decision. After extensive information search and after weighing all the criteria that are needed, a consumer will definitely zero in on selection 1 or selection 2. They will end up with a few choices and they will make the ultimate decision of buying a particular product. So, now you might be wondering, okay, the consumer has already decided, what is the job of the marketer here? See, when it comes to the purchase decision, there are so many things, right? The situation is important, the payment options are very important today. Wherever we go, even if we take an Uber, we are very particular if we want to make a payment on GPay. So, these are all the payment options that a marketer has to be very clear about. They have to communicate it to the consumers in a clear manner. The next thing is to consider in the purchase decision is also the negative feedback. You should always be ready. Today, in the day and age of marketing, a marketer has to go through what is happening online. What are people talking about their particular brand? Are there any negative feedbacks? That is why if you go to company websites, you can see a lot of star ratings, you can look at reviews, you can look at testimonials. All these things is to avoid the consumer from getting distracted from negative feedbacks. And this is how a marketer can ensure that the consumer smoothly walks into a store, it can be a physical or a website store, and complete the purchase of a product. So, now you must be wondering, why do we have a stage 5? The consumer has ultimately bought the product, right? What is the job here? So, the stage 5 is actually very critical in consumer behavior. We call it the post-purchase behavior. Only after buying a product, you will get to know whether a customer is satisfied with your product or not. Why this customer satisfaction is important? Because ultimately, only if the customer is satisfied, they are going to go ahead and keep repeating the purchase. You want your customers to come back to you, isn't it? That is what is your customer loyalty. We can also call it repurchase intention. And above all, a customer today is going to go and talk about your product to other people also. They are going to leave reviews online, they are going to give you testimonials, they are going to talk about their satisfaction and dissatisfaction. We call it word of mouth behavior. So, all of these things are what is happening in the post purchase behavior. This is the phase where the marketer has to take pains to maintain a very good strong bond or relationship with the customer. So, how can you do that? You can do that by hand holding the consumer through all the 4 stages. So, what is customer satisfaction? It is nothing but how the performance is. A customer will always have a lot of expectations and the product will have its own performance. When there is a lot of gap, then customer dissatisfaction happens. Usually, many researchers, they suggest that this gap can be filled by offering them customer service. When you are offering a product to the customer, you are not handling the physical product alone to the customer. You should also along with it offer a lot of services. For example, after buying a product, you can help the consumer to help them with the installation. You can provide them with warranty and guarantee. You can help them by promising them repair and maintenance services. We call it AMCs in layman terms. And when you do all of that, you will be able to avoid the discomfort that most of the customers feel after buying a product. So, these are the 5 major phases in the consumer buying decision making process. It is a very, very basic important concept that you will read about in marketing management, because we are getting into the psyche of the consumer and trying to understand them so that we can offer a good solution to the consumers. We should always remember that a product is not just a physical product, but it is a solution to a problem. Last but not the least, we can see that the customer journey is not always linear. It is not rigid. Yes, we have looked at all the 5 stages in the consumer buying decision making process. But when it comes to routine behavior or habitual buying behavior, for example, if you are buying a packet of bread or a packet of milk, you will not be going through this extensive number of steps. And also when it comes to impulse purchases, when we are standing at a counter, we might buy a bar of chocolate. At that point, we will not be going through all these 5 stages. On the other hand, if a consumer is buying a very high value product, like a car or a real estate, we can see that they will go through all these stages in a very, very extensive manner. So, these are all the lessons that we learn from this simple concept, and it is very, very important for a marketer to understand this, and it holds a wealth of knowledge to guide the customers towards buying a product. Thank you.